Good afternoon, everybody. All right, so the course that I'm here to introduce today is the job search course, because that's the ultimate goal for everybody who's leaving university or gets into ITI and will then also enter the job market. So I'm going to give you a brief little introduction to some of the things that we can teach you in the job search course. First thing I want to start off with is a little riddle. How would I write, "I changed the light bulb" on a resume or CV? Seems like a simple thing to do, right? Take the one light out, put in a new one. But that's as simple as you can make it. What if you got a little bit more creative with your language? Single-handedly managed to successfully upgrade and deployment of new environmental illumination system with zero cost overruns and zero safety incidents. That's a lot more expressive, isn't it? Same concept. So it's by understanding how we can work with the language that we can create more expressive autobiographies, more directed cover letters, and more detailed resumes. So what is the focus of the course? Well, first of all, we start off with a thorough self-assessment. Going through your own past, looking at things that you've done in high school, at university, volunteer clubs, teams that you join at all levels, and then trying to see what can we identify in terms of skills and abilities. Next is obviously, when applying for a job, you need a resume, all right? But is the resume as good as it can be? Is the autobiography as expressive as it can be? Or is the cover letter as directed for the job that you actually want? Hands up, who has social media? Facebook, Twitter, etc. I expect everybody in the room. Who posts funny videos on their social media? Nobody, just me, really? Maybe I should change my resume. So knowing that sometimes social media gets abused and you share pictures that are sometimes inappropriate, companies have now gotten into the habit of checking out your social media. Now, obviously, if you're sharing something that's a little bit risque, right, it can make you look a little bit unprofessional. So as part of the course, we also help you design a more professional online persona that you can present on platforms like LinkedIn or Wix. Then, of course, the ultimate thing for the job search, preparing you for the interview. Generally, we look at the most common interview questions, which I'll talk about a little bit later. And then once you get the interview, mission accomplished? No. There are definitely things that you should be doing after the interview that will guarantee or increase your chances of success. And then all of you here have probably done special courses. You've all hopefully done your TOEIC test, and with that comes certificates and diplomas for different things. The professional portfolio will help you present that portfolio, those documents, to prospective companies. As I mentioned earlier, we will cover a number of interview questions, and all of these interview questions address different aspects that you see on the board, on the overhead projector. Unfortunately, today we don't have time to cover all 8 of them, so we'll be focusing on only 3: the opinion, the competency, and the unorthodox questions. Let's have a look at competency questions first. Now, competency, in this case, is essentially referring to skills. What skills do you have? And it is with looking at your past activities through your self-assessment that you can connect those skills to any job that you want to apply for later. An example of a competency question would be, explain a way in which you sought a creative solution to a problem. Okay? So, looking at that, let me ask you a question. Tell me about a time you overcame an obstacle. Now, I assume everybody has the handout. On the handout, I gave you 3 options. I want you to take a second, read through the options, and then choose one of the 3 in exercise number 1. quiet reading time. All right, let's have a look. Who chose option A? I had to attend a cram school to improve my English. Show of hands. A few. Who chose option B? I had to work on a team project with incompetent people. Quite a few more. Who chose option C? I've never had to face any obstacles. My life is very easy. 102, okay. All right, now, obviously for the practicalities of this exercise, I limited the number of answers. But for this example, none of these are great answers, and for different reasons. For those of you who chose A, not a great answer because so did everybody else in this room. Everybody's had to go to a cram school at some point, all right? For those of you who answered B, working with incompetent people, you sound like a whiner, and you don't know how to work with different people, all right? So if you don't know how to work with them, you say, oh, they're incompetent, I don't like them. For those of you who chose C, I've never had to face any obstacles. It sounds like you don't know how to answer this question, okay? So how do we answer this question? Well, we teach the students the STAR method. The STAR method stands for situation, task, action, and result. It's a very structured model. The situation, you give the interviewer a background to what's happening at that time with the story that you're telling. The task shows what is your overall objective to face that situation. The action is the individual steps related to that objective. And then hopefully, the result would be something positive. You don't want to share a story where everything failed at the end anyway. Okay, so for exercise number 2, or the second part of the handout, I've given you a sample answer of how to address this issue. In the situation, we can see there, I worked as a retail manager at a department store during prom season, which is when schools have social events for graduating high school students. A young lady had purchased the dress online and had it delivered to our store, where it was accidentally purchased by another customer. As the interviewer, you would now have a complete situational awareness about what's going on. For the task, the objective that the person is hoping to achieve, I decided to take charge of this situation and come up with a solution for the customer. What individual steps were taken? Before calling the original buyer, I located the same dress at another location nearby. I ordered it to be pressed and delivered to her home the morning of the prom with a gift card to thank her for her understanding. I made her aware of the situation and the steps taken to resolve the situation. Each individual step clearly identified. And the result, the customer immediately wrote a 5-star review on several review sites and posted a picture of her in a beautiful dress on our Facebook page. Positive result. Happy story. Everybody's happy. Moving on to those opinion questions. Now, the opinion questions are not your opinions about politics, but more so your opinion of yourself, right? And one question that everybody doesn't like is, what is your greatest weakness? Nobody likes to see themselves in a negative perspective, so everybody hates this question. But the thing to remember is that, oh, sorry, that's just ruined my joke. So it's very easy to say, all right, I don't want to answer this question, so what I'll say is, I don't have any weaknesses. And when you say you don't have any weaknesses, this is what I think. And see, it ruined the joke. All right. So how do we answer this question? The first thing is to identify issues relating to the question. And number one, you don't want to answer this question because you're afraid. Okay? You're afraid to be honest about a weakness that you have. The thing to remember is that everybody feels the same way. And if everybody's feeling the same way, you're not really going to stand out when answering the question. The thing to also consider is that not to focus on something that is too serious or too negative. Try not to make it too personal. all right? If you're addicted to playing mahjong, or you stay up all night playing PS4 games, that's not something you share. You keep that to yourself. The idea is to focus on the skills and experiences that can relate to the job you're trying to get. So, again, how do we answer the question? We go back to our STAR model, okay? So, looking at the STAR model, we have the third part of the handout on the next page. With the person sitting next to you or on your own, have a look at that exercise. I've given you the STAR model, S-T-A-R, and on the right-hand side, I've given you 4 parts to the question. I would like you to match the left side to the right side because I've mixed up the structure of the response. So you can try this on your own or with the person sitting next to you. Just take a few minutes, read through the answer, and see if you can match the left side to the right side. All right, I'm going to need some volunteers. Who would like to volunteer and answer for this situation? Oh yes, there's also a little prize available for anybody who's willing to answer. Oh, we have a volunteer.
Thank you. Do I read it?
Just the situation part.
After I finished university, I worked as a marketing associate for a firm in Taipei. A major concern for me was effectively using my Chinese in a business environment.
Thank you. Lady earns a prize. All right, who has an answer for the task? What is the objective this person would like to achieve? Come on, don't be shy. Oh, we have somebody in the back. The gentleman, there he is.
I needed to find a lasting solution to the problem that would help me.
Thank you. Prize for him as well. And how about the individual actions? Right at the back. Gonna have everybody running around for microphones.
The action will be, I decided to research available courses for foreign professionals in Taiwan to enhance their Chinese. Of the most highly rated ones, I decided to join the NTU's Chinese course for foreigners, where I received training in many different scenarios, including business relevant situations.
Thank you. And the last one, the positive result. This is the easiest one. Still no volunteers. I'm just going to point to somebody. There we go. Lady in the front. Behind Marie.
I'm by no means a master of Chinese, but I have become more confident in the meetings and presentations I have to do. I'll keep working on this in the future.
Now that, thank you. Now that structured answer, if presented to an interviewer, shows a complete thought process, right? And it makes you look a lot more professional. Thank you, everybody who volunteered for answers. All right, the last question aspect that I want to talk about is an unorthodox question. Strange, unusual questions, right? These are particularly difficult to answer because that is their purpose. They are meant to upset your rhythm in an interview, right? So there's no way you can prepare for them because there's no way you know what the questions are going to be. So an example of these would be, would you rather face 1 horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses? How many balloons would it take to fill this room? Or, what kind of animal do you identify as? Okay? Now, Like I said, you have no idea what the unusual question is going to be, but what you need to be able to do is identify what is the actual purpose of the question. What is the interviewer actually trying to ask you? With this one, for example, what kind of animal would you like to be? If you said, I'd like to be a wolf, it could be that the person is trying to ask you, how do you identify your own characteristics? Or what characteristics do you identify with yourself? In this case, people who identify with the wolf see themselves as being courageous, protective, determined, proud, or they see themselves as a leader. Okay? Identifying the purpose of the question allows you to answer it in a more competent way. All right, the last aspect that I wanted to talk about before I call it a day is transferable skills. With a show of hands, how many people have full-time work experience? Quite a few, actually. Part-time work experience? Even fewer. So, generally speaking, not a lot of experience in the room, correct? Now, that is the issue. That is the concern for many graduates. What do I put on my resume if I have no work experience or very limited work experience? All right? And by addressing transferable skills, that is something that will help you work on your resume better. We do that by looking at the skills that you mastered in other areas of your life. And how do we do that? We look at that self-assessment I talked about in the beginning. By really thinking about what happened to you before, your self-assessment will be more complete. You'll have a more broader perspective on what to put in your documents. Let's take one example. In this case, past experiences, university basketball team. Anybody here been in the university basketball team? Any team really, volleyball, soccer, chess, doesn't matter. All right, couple of people. Now, while being on that team, did you learn anything? Anybody can volunteer? Any particular skills that you might have learned as being part of a team? Nothing? Not even teamwork? All right? So if you don't have teamwork, then how can your team be effective? All right? So these 6 skills are generally some of the things that people can develop by being a part of said team. Every team needs a captain, right? So you learn leadership skills. Any team that doesn't communicate effectively, let's say a basketball team, how do you know who's passing the ball and to whom? Stress management. Being part of a team can be stressful, even as a project team in your university courses. Can be stressful. There's a lot of work that needs to be done on tight schedules. As I mentioned, teamwork and organization. Trying to keep yourself organized is one thing. Trying to keep a group of people organized is even more difficult. So if you were part of a team, you actually develop that skill. And in 2019, everything goes on social media. So knowing how to manage your social media profiles for your team or your band or your club that you belong to is also important. All right. So an article from earlier this year in Forbes magazine mentioned several aspects. Coachability. As a team, every team has a coach. As somebody who's going into the workplace, every company has a supervisor, has a manager, has a CEO. Okay? Being able to follow your coach's orders in a basketball team is exactly the same as being able to follow your supervisor's orders in the workplace. Same rules, different game. File structure. As I mentioned in the previous page, organization is important. All right? If at university you were able to finish your thesis, your dissertation, your projects, you were able to get everything organized and finished on time, and you can take that skill and transfer it to the workplace, you'll have a higher chance of success because you're an organized worker. You don't need to be told all the time, do this, do that. I know what to do. I can do it by myself. Humility. Ego is something for the rich. If you as a normal person going into the workplace with a massive ego, it's like, I can do everything, no problem, right? you will be very quickly identified as somebody who's very arrogant. And arrogance generally doesn't get you anywhere. There's a lot of people in this room hungry for a job, all right? And if you're the one trying to show off like all your skills, I'm the greatest in the room, you're not going to be as successful as the person who puts their nose down and gets the job done, okay? Impactful relationships. I'm assuming everybody's familiar with Michael Jordan. Yeah? Now, Michael Jordan is a superstar in terms of basketball. But Michael Jordan needed backup. He needed Dennis Rodman. He needed Scottie Pippen. Without those people to back him up, there would be no Michael Jordan. Okay? So with that in mind, impactful relationships talks about how well you treat the people that you work with. If Michael Jordan had abused Scottie Pippen, if he had abused Dennis Rodman, they would not have had his back. Because he didn't support them, so why would they support him? And then, sticking with my basketball analogy, when something as hard as preseason training, as basketball is in your life, why would you put in so much effort? You put in so much effort because you love basketball. You're passionate about it. And passion in the workplace is something that'll set you apart. Passion at the workplace is something that'll make you stand out. Passion in the workplace is what makes that difficult Monday morning worth it. If you don't have passion, you won't succeed. So choose something, choose an industry that you're passionate about. All right, that's it for me today. Thank you again, everybody, for coming, and hopefully I'll see some of you next year.